We're going to have a chance to hear from someone, Richard Casper, in a second, who's got all kinds of awards and accolades because of the work he's doing. He's been a CNN hero, a Times Magazine Next Generation leader, Purple Heart recipient. I'm going to let you discover why that is with a video behind me. So please take a second to watch.
Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
Right? Oh my God, another plane just hit.
I was just like, I want to be the first person fighting in this war.
Keep filming him.
Yeah, you cut it then. You cut it? No. You have to.
Why me? Why did I get to continue on in life?
He's changed a lot. You can tell something's missing.
After his tour at Camp David, Richard Casper volunteered to go to Iraq.
I needed a voice. Then I needed a purpose for that voice.
He'd suffered 4 IED injuries and came back with traumatic brain injury. Richard, how are you, big guy?
Doing pretty good. Thank you. That's legitimately the only reason I use that, is that last little part. I'm like, this is awesome. It's like having George Bush introduce me. When he first did that, when I was over there for the filming, it was like, I told my wife, I was like, I want to like that as my ringtone, but too bad nobody does ringtones anymore. So I want to thank you so much. My name's Richard Casper, as you know. Wait, where are my slides? Okay. So I just want to go over a little quick journey with you, because I wasn't always a songwriter or an artist. This is me in 2001 as a junior in high school, here in Illinois, actually. I grew up born in Peoria, Illinois, raised in a town called Washburn, Illinois. 1,100 people in my small little town, 22 kids in my graduating class, so it was pretty easy that I got prom king and class clown and all that stuff. But this is the time that changed my life. As all you know, it happened in 2001, the towers fell. At this time, my family members, my dad is one of 11, never graduated high school, but he got his GED, joined the Navy. All of his siblings, his brothers, joined the military as well. And so I had this sense inside of me, I wanted to serve. Also, I wanted to get out of this town because my family is extremely poor. My 3 siblings all went to prison and jail. So I was this like runt of just everybody, just what am I gonna do? So I'm going to join the Marine Corps because I want to be the first one overseas. I want to go over there and fight for my country, and I planned on going a whole 20 years. That was my first initial plan. When I got into boot camp, 2 weeks after graduating high school, I was pulled out of probably my first week in boot camp. You never want to be on a list, and I was on a list. They came out and they said, Richard, Boot Casper, whatever they called me. They said, you're a special tester. I was like, oh crap. Because since I thought I was doing career Marine Corps, when we came to the state standardized testing, I was like, C, straight down the middle. I was just like, see how fast I get done, because in my mind, none of my family went to college. That wasn't an option for me. I was going Marine Corps. So when they honestly came in and said I was a special tester, I thought they thought I was dumb. I thought they were like, here's a helmet, some crayons, you're over here with these other Marines. Go play in the sand while we work with the real Marines. But the one test I really tried on was the ASVAB. And so I'm super pumped that I did that, because being a special tester was a lot more than that. After another month in Marine Corps boot camp, we'd show up again and they'd ask us questions like, do you talk in your sleep? Does your family travel across the country or around the world? Do you owe people money? I have no idea what's going on at this point. And then we go back. And every time we go back, there's less and less Marines. I'm like, are you killing them? What's happening? Like every time I go there, there's nobody else there. And it got down to 20 of us. And it started with probably 200, 300 Marines in boot camp. And that was when they told us, they said, you all have actually been selected to guard the President of the United States. And so it was a whole nother mission for me. But what was crazy, it was the first time I realized what survivor guilt was. Because here I am thinking I'm going straight to war. And I'm in SOI class. And so then, and I think it's probably still now, we're all alphabetically when I was going through the School of Infantry. And so I'm here, Casper, my last name's Casper, like the ghost, no relation. And so next to me is Cartwright, and then Cherry, and then Longoria, Horn, like all down this line. And so now here's 2003, November, we get out of SOI, and I'm going up to go to North Carolina for some training, then DC, then Camp David. while my friends all went to the next unit deploying to Iraq. So as I was going through my training, slowly I would hear, hey, Cartwright died. Hey, Cherry died. Hey, Horn died. Hey, Longoria died. Because they were the first people doing that first push of Fallujah. That was my first taste that you can have survivor guilt without actually going overseas. So after 14 months at Camp David, so fast forward past the training in Washington, D.C. for 11 months while waiting for my clearance to get through, I was at Camp David, enjoyed my time tremendously. At this point, I knew I wasn't doing a whole 20 years, so I knew I was going to get out, but I couldn't do it without actually serving the way I wanted to serve. So my first sergeant came up to me and said, hey, we actually are low on bodies. Would you like to stay at Camp David for the rest of your time? And I said, with all due respect, I can't. I have to go serve my country the way I need to serve it. There's just something inside of me that says I have to go. So I chose to go somewhere else. So they sent me to 29 Palms, California, which if you've ever been there, don't. It's horrible. It's just like Iraq. It was just, I was doing a training with them with 2-7, and I come to the realization that I didn't actually meet 2-7's deployment. So they said, hey, you get out in June of 2007. We don't even deploy till January, so you're going to miss our time frame. So I'm like, okay, who's the next people going overseas? Like, I'll just go with them. I was like, what's the guy got to do to get to Iraq around here? And so they sent me to 1st Tank Battalion with a tow unit. So I pretty much went from ground infantry to mounted infantry. And so I went to Iraq in 2006, 2007, and I still had the same personality I did in high school, class clown, prom king. For some reason, on my packing list was like a fake tattoo arm sleeve and a mullet wig. I do not know why. I just felt like I was a single USO tour. I wanted to entertain the troops. And so I was there, so I got there around August or October of 2006 in Fallujah, Camp Fallujah. But November 17th was the first time my Humvee was blown up. So what happened was I tore cartilage in my chest. The overpressure from the explosion went down my lungs, tore cartilage. Then December 14th, my gunner and really good friend was shot and killed beside me. And then the next day, I just put his friend up in the gun and say, okay, let's keep going. January 2nd was the second time I was blown up. It was my first actual concussion. Then January 14th or 17th, this is the brain injury in me, I hit again. And what's crazy too is, I don't know if you know this, but they make you call home every time you get injured. This is dumb. This needs to change, because my mom, I know she was scared for a little bit, but each time I called her and I was like, yeah, I got blown up again, but I'm good now. I'm just going to be out here. It's like, she doesn't need to know this until I come home. But then on February 13th, and she said it was the worst and greatest call she got, I was blown up for the 4th time and unfit for duty. So I couldn't work anymore, couldn't go outside the wire, but I also couldn't leave Fallujah yet. So I was stuck on base until we were going home. So I was on base for another 4 months. I traveled home. Because I extended 1 month in the Marine Corps, I did my separation and TAPS before I even went to war. So before my brain injury, before everything, I came home, touched down from the Marine Corps, and checked out. Do you need to see medical? I don't think so. You never sent me to get a CAT scan or anything, so I think I'm good. I just check out, not medically discharged, nothing, just they let me leave. So I go, and for about 6 months, my transition is pretty horrible. Depression, isolation, anxiety, survivor guilt, all these things came rushing in, but it didn't hit at first. I took about 6 months off, just lived my life a little bit, but I was like, hey, Bloomington, Illinois, I'm going to go to community college, get a two-year degree, then go to Illinois State. I had the Montgomery GI Bill, so I didn't have post 9/11. And so that was my kind of trajectory. Well, when I first got to class, I started to notice I had to do one-on-one speeches with my speech teacher. Speech is required in Illinois. And I had to do one-on-one speeches, and it made me feel like crap when I had to get up. I had to sit in the back. I'm watching these 18, 19-year-old kids get up on stage and talk about whatever it was they're talking about. And I would go to a back room with the teacher because I legitimately couldn't speak. I was physically throwing up. It was the exact opposite of who I was. If 0 was killing myself, 100 was me before war, I was at a 9. It was only my faith in God that actually kept me at that 9. And so I said, okay, I got to think differently about this situation. When I first went to the VA, this is back in the day when it wasn't really a lot of TBI, PTSD wasn't a thing. When I first got diagnosed with my TBI, they just said, hey, if it doesn't get better in 2 years, it's not going to get better. So that's not like obviously good to hear when you're like, okay, I guess I'll just wait this out. And so I'm going through all these issues. I failed my first business class, and that's when I went to the VA and got diagnosed with everything. So I wasn't diagnosed with anything about 6 months out. And I was like, okay, what can I do now to be successful. I used to guard the president. I have above top secret clearance. That's what the Yankee White means. It's a Yankee White Category 2 clearance. Maybe, just maybe, if I get a degree, any degree at all, I can go in the FBI, CIA, something that will like maybe make me feel good again, because maybe it's just I'm missing combat, I'm missing the military. And so I said, you know what I'll do? I'll get an easy degree in art. You know, these kids don't want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to them. They're weird, I'm weird, it's cool. And so I start at this community college just like doing basic drawing, a drawing class. And so every single year I go to my gunner's grave. I haven't missed a year since I've been home. He's from Houston, Texas. So while I'm in this basic drawing class, I want to really encapsulate this image for me. I don't want the kids to know what I'm going through. I don't want them to know my story, but I'm doing this for me. So I back up and I'm like, okay, I'm learning chalk pastel. I'm doing everything the way it's supposed to be. The rose is red, my skin tones, my cami shorts. Yeah, I wore cami shorts. The headstone, everything. The only thing that was not colored in at the time was the background, which is obviously grass green. My teacher comes up behind me and he says, hey, I know you're going to do green as the background, but I want to encourage you to do a color that doesn't make sense. Like grass would never be this color. I was like, that sounds pretty dumb, because obviously you see where I'm going with this thing. And he said, no. If you do this, when you put it up, people are going to understand, and you're not in the room, it'll translate for you. It'll like pull for this specific moment, and they'll know a little bit more about you. I was like, no, they're not going to know about me. So I was so art dumb, I didn't know what critiques were. And so one day he's like, hey, let's put our pieces up and talk about it. And he's like, Richard, you want to talk about it? I was like, no, I'm not going to talk about this. I told you that. I didn't actually say that, but this is in my head. I'm thinking this. And then they said, Richard, and this is the piece. And he said, Richard, or students, what do you think about Richard's piece? One by one, they're like, that's a pretty awesome piece. No, they were like, hey, I think you put red in there because you're angry your friend died. I never told him my friend died. I think you put red in there because you loved him. The one person said, I think you put red in there because you were with him when he died and you saw his blood. And I'm like, how the crap did they know that? Like, what is this voodoo witchcraft that just happened where I feel connected for the first time with these students I didn't relate to at all? And so it was my way of saying everything without saying anything. So I go all in like a Marine does. And I said, okay, what is this? How do I really impact like my story and tell it? And I was getting excited about talking about stuff I never want to talk about. I got excited about talking about my brain injury and the death of my friend, which I never would have before. Fast forward 2 years of studying art, I end up at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the best art schools in the country. So I'm here. I thank you. That's even a longer story. I usually do hour-long keynotes, so I'm trying to really condense this one. But it's incredible how I got there with no art background at all. And they just gave me a chance. I sold myself on what I wanted to do. So some of my very first art pieces was something like this. Collage allowed me to learn that anything could be art. So what we teach is warrior brain to artist brain transition. So every day I was traveling to school and I was getting anxious and wanting to throw up. The forefront of my brain's like, hey, you're just going to school. You're going to school. The back of my brain, my subconscious was like, you're about to be blown up. You're about to be blown up. You're about to be blown up, because it saw everything on the side of the road. And so a lot of my thing was like, how do I interpret that? How do I show you that? And this was the first art piece I ever did, which if you see, there's 4 G.I. Joes, real big ones, and that one at the very bottom is punching his foot through, saying like, and that was me. I was suffocating, but out of the fire team, I'm going to choose art to start healing. Then I started diving into this idea of, how do I translate loss of innocence of war? If I want you to know what it's like to be shot at, to be blown up, to kill someone, to see someone die, what is that? What does that look like? So I did this series of sculptures. I fell in love with ceramics. I didn't even know what ceramics was until I got to that school, and I fell in love with it. The cool thing about ceramics was for 6 hours of working in clay, I didn't think about war once for the first time ever, and that's what really pushed me into it. And I started diving into more on the concept of it. So I created these figures. I created 4 of these different shapes. The only identifying marks I gave them was a helmet, a nose, a smile, and then just a little bit, everyone was a little bit different. So to us, it's sculptures. It's someone who may be disfigured, someone who's injured. What I did was I took them home to my 5 and 10-year-old niece at the time, and I said, hey, I want you to paint my sculptures. And I have a video of them just saying, I'm going to put peace signs on his head. I'm going to do this. And so I captured that video and I was able to show it to the class. I was like, this is what I lost. The idea that these aren't sculptures, that these are people that need peace signs and pink and blue and all these colors. Like, how amazing is that? I had the opportunity to share with people for the first time my story, and they actually understood it. Then I did a lot of really heavy stuff. So sometimes you got to do some fun stuff. So I was working at Joe's Bar here in Chicago as I was getting my degree. I'm a big country artist fan. And this guy comes up the stairs during the VIP, and he says, "Hey, can I get up there?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "I deserve to be up there. I'm a Marine. I fought." And I just wanted to be like Sparta and like kick him down the stairs, but I didn't. I was so furious that he was trying to use his disability or his service to get up there when I was like, I don't deserve to be up there. You don't deserve. Only his friends deserve to be up there. And so I came back, and it's still on my head. Like, things sit with us for a little bit. So while I'm doing art, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this piece. So I'm going to give you a little class in symbolism. So this thing stands about 4 feet tall. Obviously, this guy's head can't even fit into his own helmet. He's on a pedestal, and it's a very phallic shape. I'll just say that. So I named this piece Corporal Richards. And now it will live forever in my art piece. So again, it's about teaching veterans that there's ways to interpret situations and then turn them into positives. One of my final pieces I did at this school was I hand coiled this 50-gallon oil drum, and I put these helmets inside of it. And a lot of it was like, how do I have a conversation with someone who doesn't want to have a conversation with me about war? I just want them to know what I'm going through. So I took a lot from this artist, Korean artist named Do Hosa, who would trick you into his forms. You may have seen some of his pieces before. He has this whole floor that looks like a bunch of just colors on it, but it's actually a bunch of G.I. Joes holding the glass floor up. And it was his way of getting you on there and being like, oh, what am I stepping on? So I did the same thing with helmets. I created helmets around all the veterans who died while I was at school that year, and I put them into this little box where I covered them with sand, so people actually had to walk on them like cobblestone. But they didn't know they were helmets until they looked inside the oil drum, and they jumped off. And I was like, you're being physically supported by the people who served and fought for you, whether you like it or not. So we can have conversations about it. But art absolutely changed my life. I only have a little bit of time. I would go through all of my art if I could. But then it got to the point to where my buddy who died, how do I tell you that he lived without crying? I had a Harley, I have tattoos, I had more sleeveless shirts, I did shirts with sleeves on it, and I was about 20 pounds bigger, and I was a Purple Heart veteran. I was like, I can't cry in front of people, but I needed people to know that Luke lived. So like, what if I could write a song and just give it to you and walk away? You know he lived, I don't have to cry, it's gonna be cool. And so I started pursuing it, creative writing classes, meeting a songwriter who taught me my first chords on a guitar. I started doing parodies of songs, which one made CMT, like they talked about it. It's, instead of Kenny Chesney's Come Over, it's called Comb Over. Killed it. Did a music video and everything for it. It's still online somewhere. But it taught me the process of songwriting. But it wasn't until here in Chicago I met a songwriter named Mark Irwin. He has like 8, 9 #1 hits. Wrote Alan Jackson's first #1. Wrote like Highway Don't Care with Tim McGraw, Taylor Swift. All these songs. And I just approached him and said, I have so much inside of me going on. Can you help me translate it? I've been working on a song for my buddy for over a year. Can't get it done. Can I come to you? And he said, yes, to me and nobody. So I came down to Nashville. We wrote a song and a half in 3 hours, something I've been working on for a whole year. It's like, this is incredible. So instantly I was like, I need to bring my friends here. The song I wrote wasn't the song I needed at the time because I didn't have a mentor or battle buddy. It was just me kind of throwing it in there. You don't need to read through this, but it was just the idea was one night in Iraq, but it was all the situations that happened on different nights. And then my buddy Jesse, who lives here in Illinois, burns over 60% of his body, has a prosthetic. He doesn't tell his story. He doesn't like telling his story. So I went to him and I said, hey man, I know you hate telling your story, but if I took you to Nashville, would you write with a hit songwriter that I met? He's like, yeah. He jumped at it. I was like, oh, okay, that's weird, but cool. He's like, no, I just love music. I didn't even know he played guitar. He's like, I love music. So this is before we were in a nonprofit. It was just, hey, I was like, I did a GoFundMe, raised like $300 to take my friend to Nashville. We went down there, and he said that 3 years, or that 3-hour session helped him more than 6 months of therapy. And the coolest thing about it was when he couldn't tell his story to his family, that's what we wrote about. I was in there to make sure, peer-to-peer mentorship, that he had someone to talk to. And so now he sent that to his sister for the first time ever, and then to his mom. He was so excited that he had a song that he was able to now push it out to the masses. And now I'm getting messages from them saying, I understand my son for the first time. I understand my brother-in-law. But he was happy to do it because it was a song. So real quick, I'm going to play you a little video to show you a little bit about where we're at now with Creative Vets, and then get into some of the more innovative stuff that we're doing.
That's all I got, but let's go.
I can actually play that, so that's good. I like it. I had no idea that music or art would move me, touch me, inform me, show me a new way to communicate, and it did.
I did about 10 years on active duty total.
I was having a nightmare almost several times a night.
We took a round about 30 feet off the starboard side and it ruptured a tank in my fire room.
Luke again gets up and starts waving him down. Within like 10 minutes later, he was shot and killed by a sniper.
When you can tap into the creative side of someone's brain, it's probably as healthy a thing as you can do.
Prior to coming to the Creative Vets program, I was hospitalized for a suicide attempt.
I am not artistic by any means. It brought out something in me I didn't know I had.
Music's always been therapeutic.
I've always thought that music was like the truest form of expression outside of prayer.
Painting is where I find my voice.
Making a process to where those feelings are represented with what you make and what you sculpt or what you paint.
It's almost like it gave me bookends on my story.
I have that nightmare now probably about 2 or 3 times a month instead of 2 or 3 times a night.
The biggest thing with writing songs is you want to try to write something that someone else can say, me too.
Yes.
I also experienced that. The whole theme of it all, like, learn from your mistakes.
20 years of feeling their eyes.
Creative Vets has changed my life completely. It shaped it with music and it saved it with art.
My dream is I didn't get him out alive. I lost him. And that has haunted me for 51 years.
Learn to forgive cause you won't forget. And remember to always make your peace.
And the reality is I did get him out. And this program has helped me realize that.
So now, what we do is we teach veterans how to eliminate their triggers through art education. Like I said, word brain to artist brain transition, getting them so excited that they're not willing to turn down a program. So what we do is we pay for their flights, their food, their housing from anywhere in the country to Chicago to go to the school down to Chicago. With no art background at all, we enroll them into the school, teach them how to tell their story for 3 weeks. They're there like normal students. For the most part, this is the first time they've ever been to college, and now they get to interact with other students and find out that it's something that they could do on their own. In Nashville, we fly them down there. We write backstage at the Grand Ole Opry with #1 songwriters and artists to tell their story for the first time. So we've had a spike in Vietnam veterans ever since we opened up the doors at Opry. Veterans who've never sought help in 40 years, where I'm like, hey, you want to come to Nashville? We'll pay for flights, food, housing. Another Vietnam veteran's going to call you, bring you down here, and you get to write with Charlie Worsham or Justin Moore or whoever it is. They're usually going to say yes to that. But then when they get there, they have to talk about things they haven't talked about before. And so it's been extremely life-changing. The part about what we do, Nashville Songwriting Program, countries, we do so much in a little bit of time. One of the really cool things that I want to touch on is our astrophotography program. When the VA study came out about veteran suicide, specifically around Native American Pacific Islander veterans, we launched an astrophotography program in McDonald Observatory, where now Native American veterans get to go there where the scientists stay and shoot the stars. And we hear all the time, because culturally their ancestors are the stars, so we're able to pull them off the reservations to do a program they're so excited about, to be reconnected with their ancestors, that now they're actually inviting us back on to the reservation so that we can keep doing these arts and music program. One of the coolest things we're launching right now is prescription music, Creative Vets RX. All the songs that we've written, and these are down and dirty songs, from having to take the life of a kid to trying to attempt suicide, to inspirational songs. How do I tell my kid that I'm broken but in a positive way? Relationship songs. And so we have all these songs, and we started getting letters from people saying, your song changed my life or saved my life just by listening to it, because I know I'm not alone out there anymore, because these are so raw and real. So from that, I struck up a deal with Big Machine Records, probably I think the first nonprofit ever to get a record deal, but I got in a room with Scott Bruschetta, who launched Taylor Swift and the whole label, and I said, we need veteran created music for veterans, by veterans and their families. And so we launched that in 2020, started releasing our music. We have over, I think it's 20 million streams of our music, 28,000 monthly listeners of our music. But it kept going from there. A Vietnam veteran reached out to me on Facebook saying, hey, I just found your music, but Charlie F. and Mike, this has helped my PTSD so much, I feel like I'm not alone and I relate to every song. So I said, okay, we can do this. We can prescribe music to get veterans to open up in the VA system and other places. So what we did is take 600 songs, we tagged them with everything that's in the song: suicidal ideation, suicide attempt, survivor guilt, MST, everything you could think of that we've written down, even to tattoos and anything mentioned in the song. So now you go into our CRM, and if I'm in front of you, you could say, Marine faith-based suicidal ideations. It'll populate a song with my exact replica in there. Now you play it for me. And I'm like, whoa, this happened to me. Well, what part? My friend died in Iraq. So you're instantly getting them to open up by feeling connected to the song. Then you give them a code, and they download our app. And now what they search and listen to, you see. And so now you're like, I never told you I have kids, but you see me listen to all this music about my family, and next time you see me, hey, do you have issues connecting with your family? You really love this song Unbroken. And like, actually, yeah, I didn't really even know why I liked it so much, but I think that's my issue. So really get to the point of healing them. Was that dun, 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 dun. Oops, I'm going backwards, sorry. And then some of these we've served, and these are, 2023 numbers, but we served over 2,000 veterans, just 1,200 just this year alone, and we've supported veterans in 50 different states. We flew in a Vietnam veteran born in Hawaii to Nashville to tell his story. And I'm still so emotionally impacted. I always thought, like, after 11 years of doing this, I wouldn't hear a new story. But hearing his story about how not only when he came home that he was spit on like the rest of us, or rest of Vietnam veterans, he also said, but he looked like the enemy. So the veterans didn't even want to hang out with him. So he was so isolated. Then he said also when he went to war, it was like he was shooting his family. And so he was able to encapsulate that into a song, bring it back to Hawaii, and now we've already helped one of his friends who wouldn't seek help before. We flew him out to Warner Music LA, where now we run more programs for pop and rock programs. So we do these all over the country. Collaborations are key with the National Ability Center in Park City, Utah. Mission continues. Pretty much we became an a la carte menu for music and songwriting and arts for other nonprofits. So we insert our programs. We activated over 200 pro songwriters last year to programs around the country, even veterans on hospice where we fly to their house. And so we just want to make sure everyone could get that story out and heal. And I'm running out of my time because I have a special guest that I want to bring up. Little did you know, I embedded some songwriters in this place yesterday. So while you all were talking through the workshop, our Nashville songwriters who live in Florida, but they're Nashville songwriters, hit songwriters, they were listening in and taking in just because I wanted you all to know that if you could tell a story, you could write a song. And so they're going to come up here and they're going to play the song they wrote based off of your conversations. They legitimately wrote it last night. So there might be some hiccups. And until I can get AI to replace them, this is what you're dealing with. Just kidding. I love them. Oops.
Okay, like you said, we wrote this last night, and I can't wait to experience it with you guys.
How do you handle this?
Let's do that. That seems awkward enough. All right. So yeah, what we were picking up on last night is that what we were inspired by, I guess, is everyone's not only willingness to help out, but their eagerness, you know, and we were just thinking about all the different programs that are out there and what must have gone through people's minds as they were coming up with these ideas to help the veterans. Sorry, I'm a musician. I usually am not awake for another 2 hours. So.
What if, when every hero hops off that plane, there's a big welcome home parade, their whole town there saying thanks? What if, when the money gets a little too tight, before they ever hold a hungry sign, somebody steps up in time? Wouldn't that be worth the getting together. It's not hard to make things a little bit better. We all can share the weight they're under. If that's all it takes, it kind of makes me wonder, what if they didn't have to keep it locked inside until it's pouring out late one night when the bottle's gone desert dry? And what if they never found the end of the rope, 'cause they always had a place to go for a glass half full of hope? Wouldn't that be worth us getting together? It's not hard to make things a little bit better. We all can share the weight they're under. If that's all it takes, it kind of makes me wonder, wouldn't that be worth us getting together? It's not hard to make things a little bit better. We all can share the weight they're under. If that's all it takes, it kind of makes me wonder, what if those heroes stopped showing up and there was no one left for saving us? Nothing else would really matter much.